I love the Scream franchise. In fact, it's my favorite horror franchise. Besides being a big fan, some movies aren't always as good as the original or other sequels. And when it comes to Scream 3, it's either a love-hate relationship. Sometimes you watch and enjoy, and other times you're just wondering what was happening for this to be in the film. Let's start off with a new scriptwriter, Ehren Kruger. He wasn't familiar with the franchise until he signed on, and there were many rewrites during production made this movie feel weirder than the rest, especially when this film was supposed to be the end of the trilogy. So I'm going to go over some of the issues I have with Scream 3. So originally, the two killers idea was scrapped after almost everything was shot, causing issues since that meant Roman was doing double duty without Angelina there to help him. She was just an innocent victim who slept with Milton for her part in Stab 3 as Sidney, and ended up dead like all her other cast members. Let's talk about Roman's voice changer. Every killer has one in the franchise, but no one has one that can mimic anyone's voice like his does. It can mimic ranges from them talking softly to even yelling, like when Christine is being tricked into believing Cotton is attacking her. Not only that, but it was never brought back for any future sequels either, showing how big of a problem it was. It worked so well one tap Christine really did believe Cotton was trying to kill her. Also, Cotton has my respect for taking a golf club straight to the dome like a champion and still giving Roman a hard time. He just couldn't catch a break and ended up dying. So the movie starts off showing us this tech in action, making me wonder if Roman made this voice tech by himself. Maybe lifted it from the studio or bought it from the dark web. But that's just speculation since we never get any information on it. Moving on, we have Roman baiting Sarah into meeting him in the studio, saying it was something important that was relayed to her by her roommate. But this incriminates him. The roommate even said she knew it was Roman's voice on the line, which could backfire on him. They didn't know the killer had a magic voice box yet. They should have been enough to lock him up, hold him longer than expected, or even have him monitored by someone after that hard evidence. But let's forget that and continue. Everything is going according to plan as Roman plays with Sarah for a while until he threatens to kill her, which gets her to run for the exit. But the security guard's shadow spooks her into going into the costume room, where Roman is conveniently waiting. What was he going to do if that security guard didn't show up? Would he just let her get away? Okay, so Sarah dies because of bad luck, ultimately. So now let's go to the after party, where some of them are bummed out or angry about the movie being canceled, and wondering if they are safe now that the movie is done. The house has Tom, Angelina, Gale, Dewey, Jennifer, and Stone, and they will eventually spread out. Now we have Roman, who is stalking around. The first thing he needs to do is get rid of Stone, which he does by getting the drop on him. Roman fatally stabs Stone and leaves him dead. Stone, using the last of his strength, stumbles to the front door, making a scene, which probably gave Roman some time to set up the gas and power to be cut off because I can't see him pulling that off with everyone else spread out inside Jennifer's house before this moment. Good thing Jennifer has a backup generator that only powers up the fax for Roman to use to kill someone, which is also another avoidable death and requires some luck to pull off since it relies on someone sparking the gas. As he is doing the faxing, he is already heading down the street, where they will fall if they get away from the blast. So everyone fell far away from each other. So Dewey gets a good view of the street from a higher vantage point where he spots Gale, and you see just Gale in front of a car with no one around until Roman attacks. And Dewey saves her by nailing him a few times, forcing him to retreat under the car, where he drops the photo of Maureen and disappear from a well-lit road. There are two types of fencing that prevent him from climbing over them. If he ran left, he would be spotted. So his only option was to quietly jump into the vehicle he crawled under or run down the well-lit road so fast that there wasn't a single trace of him. So Roman already makes some superhuman plays, since he would be hurt from being shot at. Even with a bulletproof vest on, you can crack some ribs or be bruised badly. How did Roman get Sidney's phone number? Only Dewey had it, and there was never a point where Dewey let Roman use it. How did he get Maureen's voice down perfectly? It could be from the home movie he made for Billy, starring Maureen and his dad. Or maybe he just synthesized it from memory when he talked to her when she rejected him. Either way, it's perfectly convenient for the plot that Sidney has developed mom issues out of nowhere. In the first movie, she seemed fine even after being the one who found her mom's mutilated body a year before Billy and Stu's killing spree. In the second movie, she seems perfectly content, trying to continue her normal life and moving on, so it seems out of character. Well, after her call with her mom, who was Roman, she heads to meet the rest of the cast since she is no longer safe at home. Sidney naturally stumbles on the set of Stab 3, goes to her room, and the next set of problems happen. She blocks the door with the closet door, and you can clearly see someone pushing on the door trying to get in. Then a few seconds later, she is grabbed from behind. After buying some time, she is able to throw the killer off the second story. She goes to the stairs to make sure the killer isn't coming back up when she hears a voice from her parents' room, where the killer is lying down on the floor as her dead mother. When she yells for help, she gets attacked, making it impossible for it to be the same attacker from earlier. If this wasn't Roman already on the floor, it would imply that he had managed to sneak in behind her in under 5 seconds, drape the body-covering sheet over himself, and prepare Maureen's voice to frighten Sidney. I mean, there was ample time for a swift backstab if he truly intended to kill her there. It even looked like there was only one doorway in there. With Sidney jumping off to safety, Dewey and the security guards show up. Roman was upstairs in his ghost costume just a few seconds ago, yet he manages to escape. Since Sarah was literally killed not too long ago on the premises, I feel that security should have been doubled, and there should have been more surveillance on Roman, as he knows the studio and how to maneuver through it without being seen. This would naturally lead to more suspicion. I definitely thought he was the killer during my first time watching Scream 3. Now on to my biggest gripe with Roman. He goes off exploring with Jennifer, goes in the basement to slip away, and stages his own death, lying in a coffin and suppressing his pulse just enough to deceive anyone who might check. This raises a perplexing question. If his intention is to kill everyone, why go to such extreme lengths to fake his death in the first place? After all, anyone who witnessed him supposedly dead would pose a threat if they survived, since they would know he faked his death. The situation becomes even more bizarre when you consider Jennifer was hiding just 5 feet away from Roman's body, while Gale checked his pulse. One can't help but wonder what Roman's plan was at that moment. Was he merely planning to remain in the coffin until Jennifer left? The entire situation just feels rather odd. Now we have everyone being killed off. Tyson, Angelina, and now Jennifer is next. Jennifer ends up trapped behind the one-way mirror with Roman approaching. Dewey shoots the glass behind them until Jennifer's body falls out. Where did Roman disappear after killing her? Wouldn't he have to backtrack out of there, where Dewey and Gale would have seen him? After Gale is grabbed by Roman, who gets close to stabbing her when Gale is able to kick the wall, they both fall down the stairs to the bottom of the basement, and Roman ends up unconscious. Dewey hears Gale scream and takes aim at Roman, forgetting to reload his gun. Roman expertly throws his knife at Dewey's head, causing him to topple over. Definitely a great display of Roman's skill. With Sidney finally arriving at the party, she pulls a fast one and unloads on Roman's chest, knocking him down, not following her headshot rule as she did with the previous killers, which gave him time to get away. Once again, Roman brushes these shots off like they were nothing. Kincaid also shows up in time to save Sidney from an ambush stab by Roman. With Kincaid knocked out and no more bullets, she runs off down the hall and ends up in a library with a dead end. There, she discovers the secret entrance behind the bookcase thanks to the light from underneath, which Roman set up for her to find with a movie playing. I always felt like Sidney had a half-dozen other ways she could have gone, maybe even left the house. She had enough time to do so after Roman fell through the glass door. Now that Sidney is trapped and sees the movie playing, starring her mother, that's when Roman starts talking to her as Maureen with a bloody sheet again. He sure did get there fast. Now that Roman has her alone, he tells Sidney why he convinced Billy to kill Maureen for him. Maureen rejected him and didn't see him as her child, so he made a movie with Billy's father and Maureen together, fueling Billy's rage. After her murder, Roman never expected Billy to continue killing, making his own movie. But it made Sidney the star, making Roman even more jealous of Sidney, whom Maureen has only seen as her child, and blaming her for stealing the life he should have had. As for motive, it isn't too bad for the franchise, but I also get the feeling that his life couldn't have been that bad. He did become a successful movie director. He couldn't let his mother's issues go, and caused all of this to happen. What's also kind of strange is that Sidney was already leading a miserable, isolated life because of all the trauma she had to deal with. She lost all of her friends from Scream 2, and by doing all of this, he unintentionally helped her overcome her demons. With his reveal, it seems he signed his own death warrant, like all before when they dropped the Ghostface persona. After Sidney gets the advantage, she stabs him multiple times in the back and once in the chest for good measure. When suddenly Roman decided he wasn't dead anymore, he got up and just started screaming, and he received more gunshots to the chest. The man's ribs should be powder at this point. Then comes the fatal shot to the head, which he should have heard coming if he had stopped screaming for a second and might have been able to cover his face with an arm or something. Maybe he should have teleported away to safety. With that, let's do a little recap of everything now. The magic voice box mimics anyone and is never used again in the franchise. He got lucky with Sarah's situation. Also, all the feats he pulls at Jennifer's house, from killing Stone, cutting the gas line and the power, and send the faxes while waiting down below. Having the gas trap actually work. Pinpointed where Gale would be and vanished right after his attack on the lit street. Taunted Sidney, who developed new mother issues, and he was able to use Maureen's voice exactly how Sidney remembers it. Used teleportation to attack Sidney on set, and avoid being caught or seen leaving the studio when security was tight from Sarah's recent death. He unnecessarily faked his own death and suppressed his heartbeat for no reason. He's fortunate Sidney ran into the exact room set up just for her so he can do his reveal. Roman had a great job and excelled at it, but he couldn't let go of his mother's issues. I feel like he should have reached out to Sidney. Perhaps she would have treated him like a true brother, and Maureen would have realized how cold she was towards him, ultimately accepting him as her child. Billy might have eventually overcome his mother leaving him and continued dating Sidney since she wouldn't be closed off about her mother's death. So, Roman's and Billy's mother issues were essentially the root cause of the entire franchise, when you think about it. All those deaths were a domino effect from a single rejection. Despite my nitpicking of various issues in this movie, I'm finding great enjoyment in Scream 3. Despite the challenges faced by the film, I am genuinely glad it exists. The exceptional performances by the cast consistently impress me, ultimately resulting in a satisfying addition to the Scream franchise. That basically wraps it up. Thanks for hanging around. Until next time.